Okay. Okay, welcome to the Southside Community Council's 4th Development Activities Meeting. For those of you who are with us for the first time, the Southside Community Council is a resident community organization, and our mission is to maintain, improve, and protect the quality of life for residents of the Southside. In January of 2020, Southside Community Council became a registered community organization through the Department of City Planning. Now development projects that meet certain criteria and will be going before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Planning Commission, Art Commission, or Historic Review Commission are required to meet with the community through the registered community organization and the dam. So we're here today to hear 3 projects: the playground in Town Center at Southside Works and a new build at 90 South 12th Street. Stephanie's going to share the meeting logistics and how to participate. Anthony Kobach and I will be looking at the attendance so that we have an accurate, we can accurately put information into the document that is placed on the DAM website and is shared later with the presenters. So Stephanie.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Joy. I'm serving as your moderator to facilitate conversation between the attendees and the applicants that are going to be presenting on their respective projects. So there are 3 presentations tonight, and after each presentation, we're going to invite questions and comments for that specific project. The chat feature is enabled for you to ask questions. Actually, I'm sorry, the Q&A tool is enabled for you to ask questions, and the chat is actually the tool that you'll use for technical assistance, and I will put this information into the chat. If you would like to ask a question, you may use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, and I will unmute you so that you can engage in a conversation with the applicant. But if you put your question into the Q&A tool, then I will read that question and the applicant will answer, and then I will put their answer into the Q&A. And we do have one phone-in caller. So presenters, I'm going to ask that you clearly describe what is being shown on the screen because they can't see it. And for the voice-in callers, if you have a question and want to raise your hand, click *9 and that will raise your hand. We are recording this and we will provide this to the Southside Community Council for placement on their website.
And I think the call-in is Marge, who's with the South Pittsburgh Reporter, and I think she's looking at this through her iPhone or cell phone, I believe.
Or it could be the council person's office.
Yeah,
because I know Rosha was going to call in.
Okay.
And one thing I forgot to clarify for the applicants for the Southside Works, it's up to you guys if you want to present both projects together. But one point of clarification for the participants is they do have separate application numbers. So I'd like, for purposes of record keeping, the comments are separated. You know, we talk about one project first and then talk about the comments for the second project. But the presenters can present both or one at a time. It's up to you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, and Stephanie, if you can promote Doug Ortiz to panelists, that would be great.
Yep, got it.
Okay.
And Barbara, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
About the attendance. I am assuming, and this is that we have members from the Southside Community Council, obviously, the development team, and residents. But if there was anyone else, and I think you said Bob, so that's from the local review committee as well?
I have everybody identified for you, Anthony.
Okay, to this point? Okay, great.
Yep. Yep.
All right, thanks.
And so I do want to acknowledge the Samara Road and CanaDev. I believe, other than the first presentation where there was a different architect, they have been with us for all 4 of our dams. So we seem to be doing this work together. So I welcome them once again.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the floor is yours.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You're ready for
Sorry.
me? Sorry about that. Okay.
Looks great.
There we go. Okay. My name is Teresa Bucco. I am the architect with AE7 Pittsburgh. I have been working with the CanaDev and Samara team on these projects for probably 4 or 5 months now. So I'm just going to touch base on the overview very briefly, just to refresh what the overall development is with the parcels. Essentially, we have the dog park, which we reviewed last time. Today, we're focusing on the playground submission, as well as the town center. So these are the parcels. The playground is to the left of 27th Street, and the town center is the renovation of the town center that is surrounded by the Cheesecake Factory, Sydney Street, and between 27th and Cinema Drive. First, I think based on the comments about wanting to, sort of keep the comments consolidated for each parcel so that for record purposes, I'm going to just focus on the playground, and let's take questions on that, and then we'll go into the details and particulars of the town center. The playground parcel on the left of 27th Street. The intent of this is to activate the left lawn west of 27th Street, which is going to be adjacent to the future apartment building along South Water Street. A few things that are happening here in this proposal. In order to create a nicer promenade and connection and activation to the future apartment building, we are actually proposing to close South Water Street and engage the green space to the whole promenade and experience for the pedestrian. And so in doing so, we'll be working through that process with DOMI, but the goal of the design is to increase this green space and that activation. Tunnel Boulevard will continue to be a two-way street coming through there. And the idea is that coming along down 27th Street from Carson and the business district at Carson, coming along here, you'll be engaged by this playground, which is on the eastern part of this parcel. The playground, the idea in terms of the various spaces and programs is that the right side would actually be an active playground with play equipment. Then there is sort of a trellisy kind of feature with a path that would delineate a bit the difference in program from the children's playground, then transitioning over to an active adventure trail. Part of the goal of Samara is to engage the local businesses and the retail area around Southside Works. And one of those things in doing that is they've engaged REI and some of their needs in order to help activate these spaces with their current tenants. In doing so, REI expressed the interest for a bike trail and walking trail so that potential customers could do a test drive for a bike or a pair of tennis shoes. And so in doing that, we've created this bike trail, which would be a stone dust trail type surface. So, very pleasant in terms of what that surface would be. Additionally, there's a cross path coming across here for more advanced terrain. And so that would be a nice experience that would be within the green space. Then beyond that, on the other side, again, sort of keeping in mind that there's a future apartment building going here, just an opportunity to just put some hammocks and some leisurely space in through here, again, to activate this promenade. Further down, as we west on this large parcel, is the existing Coal Place Road. That will stay in place and actually will be the future access point to the apartment building. And then on the other side of that, the goal is to, again, keep the sidewalks circulating around the entire parcel, but again, activating these with paths and crossways with benches and leisurely space. The area down here, further down, the idea is that this could be a place for gardens and green play, open space, and so you could have just impromptu space for, playing frisbee, type of, football, open games, and just some leisurely green space if somebody wanted to have a picnic. And again, the potential for active gardens to accommodate potential tenants in the apartments. So in terms of precedent imagery to inspire what these places may look like, we're proposing, playground equipment that is natural in the materials and, surfaces that are accommodating to both children for safety as well as accessibility for meeting ADA and accessibility purposes. Climbing equipment, like we were saying, just keeping this bike trail very natural in terms of a stone dust trail, maintaining trees, and the idea is to kind of create a green a green natural environment within the city for the public and the local tenants and as well as residents for the apartment building, and as well as proposing a trellis structure that is for along that path to divide from the playground to the open green space. So that is essentially the proposal for this parcel, for this open green space. That's the sense of the overall plan. So if anybody has any questions or comments on this before we move to the other project.
Would you prefer to do Q&A now on what you presented?
I think that might be beneficial, and then this way we can focus. There's a lot more program and attributes and visuals for the town center. So I think that might be beneficial to focus on this parcel. Okay, great.
Yeah, because I mean, the participants' minds, they might, have questions now and to wait till both are done.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So folks, please either raise your hand, put your question in the Q&A, and I'm going to hand it to Barbara to see if anyone on the panelist side has, questions that they would like to ask.
Okay, I actually have a question. Kathleen with Community Council. I'm blanking. Which one is Water Street? Is that under the yellow part that says new trees, new apartments, hammocks?
Yep. So South Water Street is right here. I'm going to jump to my overall site plan, and that will help give you the overview. So this is 27th Street. That takes you all the way down to the Three Rivers Heritage Trail. And South Water Street is the one that comes down along the Hofbrau House, and then it continues through currently continues through the path right here, but past 27th. But we're proposing at 27th Street to close that piece of South Water Street. Again, keeping Tunnel Boulevard running two ways. So in terms of keeping the traffic flow moving efficiently, Tunnel Boulevard would continue to be a two-way road passing through here.
Now, would it still be open, like if you're making a right turn to go to the bridge and to go over to 2nd Avenue?
Correct. So then this piece of Tunnel Boulevard would not be, this piece of South Water Street would not be. But if you were on Tunnel Boulevard and you made a left onto South 27th, you could still make a right onto South Water to continue across over the bridge to 2nd Avenue.
Okay, because a lot of people do travel that route to go over the bridge to go to 2nd Avenue.
Yeah, so they could still continue down this road, make a right on a Tunnel Boulevard, and if they wanted to cut through there, they could and continue over to there.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hi, Barb. Hello.
Peter Kreismeyer. I have a couple of comments and a question for you. So the new apartments, I get, they're not there yet. That's for something down the road.
Correct.
Yeah, we saw earlier proposals for office space and other development there. And I'm loving the playground as a great sort of park-like front yard for these new apartments that aren't there yet. But I'm curious, are there any numbers on how many apartments are going to be in there? I mean, it's a big site. It could be a big building. I'm just thinking for all the folks who live there, just the logistics of pickup and drop off. And I'm wondering if Tunnel Boulevard if something needs to happen to accommodate the sort of front door things you'd need for a big apartment building, because it looks like that's taken away.
The intent is that that front door would happen at this drop off here. So we would be accommodating those type of functions for drop off and pickup in the front door. Currently, as we know, like you said, the apartment building is still very much in the early stages of design, but currently that is the strategy for the drop off, is to create a turnaround and an access point at the end of 27th and South Water Street for that to occur for deliveries and drop off and pickup. Jonathan, if you'd like to add to that.
Well, and then it looks like there's something plugging into the tail of it on the left-hand side of the drawing. Is that like service entrance or tenant parking or something like that?
Yeah, so the idea is that the parking garage would be accessed from 2 points, from the far west end as well as Cole Street into the middle. So those would be the access points from vehicular standpoint into the apartment building.
Okay.
So this way that will buffer these green spaces.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it would make for a great address, you know, to have a park in your front yard. Like that. So.
Yeah, and I just quickly to add to that, I think also given the location, the site, not to get into the multifamily side too much because this isn't what it's about, but because you got me excited, I guess I'll go there. I mean, this is on the waterfront and on the riverfront trail, and what we're trying to create here is an active outdoor community, but one that is also walkable or bikeable. So while I agree with you, there will obviously be traffic concerns to solve for. We were thinking these 3 points of entry are strong and really want to promote, you know, the riverfront trail and just the walkability of what the new Southside Works will be and has tried to be in the past.
Mike, I think you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, I had several actually. I'm just thinking something to keep in mind for the park and the bike area would be, okay, number one, some water fountains in the area. Secondly, some bike racks where people can put their bikes. And thirdly, benches. I'm big on benches. I like to go up there and sit down and just relax and look around. And something like that park is great, but again, there's no place to sit down, get a drink of water, or park my bike.
Those are all really, really good points, and thank you for that. That's great. We are considering benches through here as we start to develop it. They'll start getting a little bit more definitive in terms of their location, but that is the intent, is to kind of create a place for you to sit down, relax, and of course, bike racks for sure.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
As a reminder, attendees, please feel free to raise your hand to ask questions or use the Q&A tool. Any other panelists have questions?
Yeah, I have one more question. How close is the new apartments to the marina?
Let's see, the overall, bear with me. The marina is just down here to the left. I think it's a little further down. Yeah, these are actually, you're referring to the docks that are over here to the left?
Yes.
Yes, yes. So they're right down there at the bottom of the at the embankment, just beyond the trails.
Now, are they still planning on building they were building a clubhouse with the marina? Is that not going to happen because these apartments, or are they still doing that?
The
That
apartments were never, the clubhouse was never in the apartment space.
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
right.
it's hard to figure out where the spaces are with this map.
Yeah, and they're actually, I believe they're starting site work for that clubhouse, so it should be going forward. It's basically just the left edge of the slide there is basically right where it's at.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Realistically, that new apartment building, is it like in the works already, or is that just a dream of what could happen in that space? That space has been empty for a long time, and there's been a lot of people who said they were going to build things there. And I mean, is it going to be reality, that new apartment building?
Yeah, we are going to pre-planning commission next week to present initial concepts for that site. I think it's highest and best use of the site, and we do fully intend to move forward on it, and are full steam ahead, spending money on architects and all the other third parties.
Okay, and then the apartment across the street, I forget the name of that big one there.
City Club Apartments. Yep.
Yeah, okay. What's the occupancy there as far as being filled? Is it at capacity, that to the point that we need another big giant apartment building there?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know what their current occupancy is, but from the last, I think from September is probably the last time I got a report, they're at about 95% occupied. We also have multifamily units within the Southside Works that we own that are actually just hit 95% occupancy. And then Hot Metal Flats, which is on the other side of the Hot Metal Bridge, is right around 93% occupancy. So, right when you get to 95% occupancy is when you start pushing rates up in the multifamily business. So it's a very strong indicator that there is a need and demand for those units.
Okay. How many floors would that be?
We will find out. It's a part of our pre-planning discussion and something the city will give us feedback on as we progress.
Okay.
And Jonathan, will it be all apartments, or will the first floor be some retail mixed in? Do you know that much?
We're very much on the front end, so I'm fearful of committing to anything, or I think, look, we view it the same as the rest of the Southside Works, that it's a cohesive environment, and multifamily is going to do better if you have retail as a part of it, or, vice versa. The retail is going to perform a lot better if you have multifamily nearby. So we just want a well thought out blend of multifamily, retail, and office. So I'll commit to that. Other than that, I'm not certain exactly, if or how much retail there will be.
Great. We have a question in the Q&A from Terrence. How much of the River Park entry would be lost to more driveway, roughly?
What are we calling the River Park? Because we're really not losing much to driveway. Because there is already access points here and access points here, with eliminating the road.
Terrence, actually, do you mind if I unmute you in case that you needed to clarify that? So I'm going to, ask you to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, because we're actually increasing the green space as opposed to adding more hardscape.
The area where you enter the ground floor of Hoffenbrau and you walk down the steps to the river, that whole
Yes.
feature.
Mhm.
So right now there is a little driveway that you go around in a circle, which I don't really see anybody use, but you're saying you want to expand that for the apartments. I'm saying how much further would that go?
The drive itself wouldn't be expanded so much as the sort of the walkway and access to that. So it would be more just modifying the existing hardscape to create the proper paths and access points for the vehicles to come and loop around. So we really wouldn't be expanding that.
Cool, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, Terrence.
If I may, I have another question.
Please.
Yeah, so my name is Doug. I'm also part of the Southside Community Council. Just a quick observation, if we can, I guess, loop back a little bit to the playground. So I'm a frequent dog walker around the area, and I've certainly observed or noticed a lot of accumulation of water. So I guess my question is there plans to improve the stormwater management in those regions of the new development?
So not being able to speak specifically to where the water issues are, but as we are doing modifications, we do have civil engineers on board for the team, and we will be addressing any impact that we're making to the existing terrain to add new surfaces. We'll be addressing the stormwater management and adding trench drains and anything necessary to direct that water properly.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
And we have another question in the Q&A from David. He's asking, what is River Green?
River Green is a parcel on the eastern side of the overall development that is vacant right now. So that is just part of the overall master of the public space program that we're proposing for without making much impact on that existing lot, to just add additional program to that space instead of it just being a vacant parcel without any current plans for build. Obviously we'd like to eventually build on it, but while it's a vacant lot, be able to activate that with some fun program. So just a or hammocks or just a casual space.
Thank you.
I have a question about back to the apartment building.
Go ahead.
I just noticed there a cafe and cafe seating. That is all part of the new apartment structure, right? That won't be there in place before anything else, correct?
No, it won't. That's just sort of proposed it's a potential program, but in order again to activate the promenade that would occur along the apartment building, that's just sort of potential program that we're putting out as a possibility.
Okay, and the parking all would be in the structure itself for the new apartments.
Correct. Yep. The Cool Place and South 26th Street would be the access points to the parking garage.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
I think we won't have too many more questions about the apartment building, but it just reminded me that project will be back for another dam, and it's really the playground in the town square right now. But I know it's an exciting project overall, but yeah, it will be back as appropriate.
Okay. So if we're done with the playground, I'll move on to the town center.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
super. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for everybody for the comments and feedback and input. Much appreciated. So the town center, likewise, as we've mentioned before, the goal is to activate and kind of create program and new energy and gathering places throughout the whole Southside Works development. And part of that is to renovate the town center. In doing that, we're trying to create an active gathering place, and as a result, adding a host of potential programs that can happen here. And that includes, just to kind of share with you some of the visuals here, potential for farmers markets and Christmas fairs and seasonal activities. There'll be a central lawn for games and gathering places and movie nights and whatnot. With some boss seating, kind of maintaining trees and whatnot. But I'm going to actually jump to the goal of the space is to create a dynamic, energized town center and a place for gathering throughout. Here's some inspiration from places that we've taken from other places in the country that just create really dynamic spaces for people to gather. Hopefully we will get through COVID. We will gather again in our public spaces is the goal, especially with outdoor spaces. Part of the program, part of that is to offer food and beverage venues in this space. And the idea is that these are small kiosk type venues that can be open 365 days a year, sort of walk-up type offerings where you can come up to a window, and in the summer these windows can be opened up and just sort of create a really lively space where you can get something to eat, lunch, and in the evenings, come and have a picnic on the yard, having these steps to gather where you can imagine sitting on the steps, meeting a friend, as well as seating along Cinema Drive. There is the future development that you know about of the cinema to create the box office. And so there's a great connection for the activation of that space as well, and being able to influence the activity that's going to occur in the new town center. There'll be some features such as trellises at the venues with seating, new paving, and again, trying to maintain the trees where we can. There's also an opportunity to put artwork and sort of engage it on that end as well. And then also possibilities for little pop-up venues, ice cream carts, or seasonal sales possibilities as well. So there'll be 3 venues for food and beverage. There is currently the Tour Pittsburgh kiosk, which exists on the corner. The goal is to keep the Tour Pittsburgh kiosk engaged into the plaza and the activity here and the attraction of those people as well. And so that will be engaged at the end of the corner here. The buses typically come up onto Sydney Street. So there's a place for them to stop, get out, queue, and still have Tour Pittsburgh be part of this site, as well as the Cheesecake Factory. There also will be a stage for outdoor performances, lunchtime acoustics, acoustic guitar, and again, just sort of a nice outdoor space for people to gather and collect. And as you could see, these are some of the precedent that we were mentioning before in terms of the scale of what these food and beverage places can be. And so the idea is that the materials are a little bit industrial, sort of in keeping with the history of the Southside Works, but also sort of having a nice feel that's comfortable and warm in materials, and some opportunities for, again, sort of the walk-up type service that can offer. And there is one venue that will have some indoor seating as well. This is the overall rendering from somewhat of a little more of an aerial view of what that will feel like. And so again, the entrance off of Sydney Street, the 3 kiosk food and beverage venues, a trellis for some shade, and then opportunities just for places to gather, the box office and its connection to that new renovation of that building. And again, this is 27th Street that will continue down to the Heritage Trail, the future proposed dog park to the right with the playground that we just reviewed to the left. And then Here are some pedestrian views of what that space feels like internally. This is the entrance point with the 2 food kiosks to the left and the right, coming in and pulling you into that green space. Once you're into the green space, this is the trellis area, places for activity and physical fitness, as well as these are sort of the tables and chairs to sit and gather. This is along Sydney Street, that approach with Tour Pittsburgh here on the corner. And this is the approach up at the Cheesecake Factory to the right, with right across the street here would be the box office. And so still maintaining that access point and that circulation continuing over to 27th Street from Cinema Drive. That's the overall presentation. If you have any questions or comments, or Alison or Jonathan, if you have anything else to add, please feel free.
All right.
I have a question if nobody else does.
Yeah, please go, Mike.
Please go ahead.
This rendering that we're looking at right here, how true to scale is this?
The kiosks and whatnot, everything is very much to scale. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, somehow it looks like there's a lot more room there on that rendering than I recall when I've been up there, but
Okay. Yeah, these kiosks are small. So these are only about 14 feet wide, and they're 40 feet long. So they're long and skinny, and they're about 10 feet tall. So they're not very large structures on the site. And so that's why they're just a window service type of venue. You can almost imagine them being like a food truck, but they're going to stay for a while. And so in terms of the size and scale of those, and so they're sort of small in nature, likewise with these two over here.
Where those 2 people are walking into the entrance right there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's where currently is like the a little store type building there, right?
Yep, it's a Tour Pittsburgh kiosk, a little octagon structure.
Yeah, yeah.
Right here. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And when you stand there and look over at the Cheesecake Factory, it looks so far on this rendering. It's
Yeah, it actually is just the nature of the angle of the camera on these renderings when with the computer. That's sort of essential. That's kind of the nature of it that happens. Things get a little distorted with the angles. So I think that might be what you're perceiving in terms of the distortion a bit in the scale.
okay.
Teresa or Ally, wasn't this the project that was potential art commission discussion as well? If you wanted to speak to that.
Yes, Ally, do you want to speak on that?
Sure. So for most part, we see that the kiosks themselves have really nice opportunity to add some type of local artwork there. We have not pinned down exactly the mural necessarily, which we are doing. However, we have located the specific locations of where we see that happening. So you'll see that on the side of the kiosk, the panels, where Teresa's mouse is. Additionally, those items tend to also incorporate when our kiosk tenants go in, they'll have their signage, which will be probably just some type of flat vinyl, and then a menu, small typical menu signage as well.
Great.
Teresa, I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
The original dam that we had a couple months ago, it was mentioned that, you were taking out the middle water feature and then going somewhere off to the side. In this rendering, I don't see the water feature anymore. Are you guys just totally taking it out, or is it going to be somewhere else?
No, I think the goal is to actually remove the water feature entirely.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other thing was in the original dam, it was also mentioned that you were thinking about maybe bringing back the farmer's market.
Yes. Yep. So that actually, the idea is that Cinema Drive could be, partially closed or, temporarily closed down for things like such as a farmer's market. And so, that could be an opportunity. What we're thinking is at Cinema Drive, you could, the farmer's market could come and set up. So absolutely. We think that would be a great thing to do, is to introduce the farmer's market back and through here.
Yeah, I know a lot of Southsiders really missed the farmer's market this year. So if you guys could bring it back, that definitely would be a wonderful addition back to the South Side.
Yeah, we think so too. We think that'd be a great way to activate this in the summer, and then have it be seasonal. And then we see then in the winter that be an opportunity to be, pumpkin festivals and, fall festivals and, Christmas shows and types of things. So a lot of opportunity to be able to activate that along those same lines of bringing vendors in.
My marketing and event team is going to kill me for telling you guys this before they release it, but we're actually doing a holiday market in the beginning of December.
Great.
So we're already putting that back in place.
Great.
It's good to hear. It's great to hear.
One question about that water feature. What's the reasoning behind eliminating that?
Well, the feeling was that we would get more use and activation in terms of program with the large green as opposed to the water feature, where it's sort of limited in terms of when and how frequently you can use it. And so we thought we could get much more program opportunities in terms of creating a large green space as opposed to the water feature.
Were you ever up there in the summertime when the water feature was active, and all the kids that were there, that was their biggest joy, was running in and out of that thing? And I even tried it a couple times myself so I could get through there without getting wet. And it seemed like a nice draw for kids in the summertime.
Yeah, understandable.
Well, even though it's not water, keep in mind that there was no playground. So, there is there will be a playground as part of the site. So that will be, I think, attractive to kids too.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions from panelists?
Hi, yes, this is Jackie from the Community Council. I have a question.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. Hey, Teresa, do you have a rendering? Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
right here.
do you have a rendering from like across the street where the bookstore used to be? I'm just curious because even though you're taking away that octagon kiosk on the corner, you're sort of creating this funnel with the shipping containers that funnel people towards the open green space.
Right.
But what does that look like from across the street on the other corner? Because it looks like it could, sort of close off that open courtyard, experience that's there today.
Yep.
Open town square, excuse me.
So this is that view right here. So this is the kiosk to the right, the kiosk to the left. And so this cube is just sort of a generic space for potential art. That was what was mentioned before with the Art Commission. And so, so this is sort of that opening view. So what we're kind of feeling like that this is spacious enough. There's a green space with the bench here and some bench space over here. And so this would essentially be that view from across the street. And sort of, again, to your point, we're trying to keep that open and really draw people in. Likewise, on the other side, this is the corner to the right. Again, really trying to have these separated enough so that it would be open and you could really get drawn in.
So any chance of maybe putting one or both of those food service amenities on the opposite side? When I think of those things, I think of people queuing in line. And then I think of people coming for an event and that mass mix of people sort of in that narrow corridor right off of the corner. I don't know if there's any way to open that up just to alleviate some of that congestion pain point to think about. You don't have to answer it, just a comment.
Sure. Yeah, that's something we can consider. Thanks.
Yeah, and just a side note, this is also from Kana, is the queuing stations move away from that corner point. So looking at the kiosks themselves, no one will be congregating necessarily for food to pick up at that corner, but it'll be on the kind of the opposite side.
Yeah, so this is the queuing for this this kiosk at the corner of South and 27th and Sydney. So it's pulled in more. So here's that entrance point with that open space, and then the queuing happening over here.
Oh, and that first block, the first container is more of like an indoor seating area.
Correct.
Conceptually.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A and an attendee with their hand raised. So Jeff and Kitty asked, has there been more thought on a public restroom in the area?
Yes. So right now we're trying to propose a public restroom that would be in some of the existing buildings that are adjacent down this corridor. So with Samara Road is looking at existing tenant space that they have, or we could actually use that to create a public restroom. So we're still ironing out where that's happening exactly, but that is the goal, is to provide a public restroom for these public spaces.
Thank you. And then Quellen asks, are we going to take this development plan to potential store owners, past and future?
If you want to go, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'd say, and Allison's been instrumental in this, all of the plans we're doing here at Southside Works, from the box office to the multifamily to the town square and Tunnel Park. We share those with all of our tenants, and they've all been incredibly excited about it. So as far as current store owners, we've shared this with them. And people like REI, we may actually be doing some collaborations with them on, using one of these containers, maybe over by the, sorry, not container, but using one of these spaces as a rental location or something like that. So we definitely keep everyone informed and have had very strong feedback. As far as tenants who would take these spaces, everyone we've been talking to and everyone Allison's been talking to has been local to Pittsburgh.
Thank you. And let's see. Quellen also has their hand raised, so I'm gonna ask that you unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
That's okay. I get it mispronounced most of the time anyway.
How do I say it for
Quaylin.
future reference?
Quaylin. Yes.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. Thank you.
So really what I was sort of trying to get to was, there's, for example, Sur La Table. It was really a beneficial store for them. I mean, it brought in a lot of dollars, but they closed it because of the pandemic, but also because they didn't have cooking and some other things in there. So one of the questions, or one of the pieces of my question was, are you going to go maybe back to some of the previous store owners, the ones that make sense and did have some business, to see if this might bring them back? I don't know if that makes any sense in terms of your retail business, whether that's something that happens or not. So it's just a question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, Sur La Table unfortunately filed bankruptcy and therefore shut down a majority of their stores.
Yeah.
As with the local bookstore and retail in general is taking a hit. I wish Sur La Table was still there. I thought it was actually a good use for the space. And outside of just wanting to receive rent, I actually think it was a good part of the ecosystem. But to answer your question, yeah, we will go and are going to just about everyone we can. I'm very incentivized to fill space, and we don't want dark spaces, and we've given people who have been involved or wanted to be at Southside Works and haven't had the right platform to do so. I think this gives them a very good opportunity to kind of dip their toe into the water and put a temporary flag at Southside Works and understand the ecosystem and hopefully expand from there. So I guess this is a good low barrier to entry opportunity for many store owners within Southside Works or within Pittsburgh and the South Side.
So Jonathan, this is a follow-up. This is going to be totally way out in left field coming from this, but I know that the Macy's in Homestead was one of their really, they brought in a lot of revenue, and I think Macy's was asked to leave, if what I heard is correct. So there's no Macy's in the city at all. And I don't know if any space here is big enough or if it even makes sense, because I know Macy's is closing down some of their stores, but I'm just throwing that out.
Sure. And I think obviously you mean in the existing retail, not necessarily the town square, but I'll say and you all probably get tired of hearing me say the same words, but we're trying to create the right ecosystem. And, Macy's is a very large soft good apparel retailer, which I think time had proven, whether it was through American Eagle or BCBG or H&M, that even those size tenants, too many of them don't survive. And we need, this is a community that is walkable, isn't necessarily a destination, has some attributes that make it a destination, but really should serve, the apartments. There's 1,000 apartment units surrounding within, a couple blocks of Southside Works. And there's a ton of homes and within the Southside Flats. So I think it needs to be a good mix. I think there's a great opportunity for boutiques and soft good apparel retailers to be here. I think Macy's, will call it as cuspy. I think it may be too big of a behemoth, but I think there is, and maybe what you're getting at is there is a need for some of that apparel and soft good stuff, and we definitely think there's an opportunity there.
Yes, and actually early on, I'd say the Carson Street used to be, somewhat like Lawrenceville is now, where there were these smaller boutiques. And if that's the kind of thing and the atmosphere that you could create there for both, I know we have a lot of college students, but we have a lot of professionals living here too. So even if they were small boutiques where, not what's on East Carson Street now in terms of boutiques, but we're of a different level. I think that would be a nice way to bring back, some of the traffic to Southside. Yeah,
similar to kind of what's in Shady Side as well. I agree. Yeah. It brings character. It's interesting. I think it is unique, and I think all of those things are what the Southside is as well.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Quaylen. Any other questions? Feel free to put them into the Q&A tool or raise your hand.
I have a question.
Please, yes.
Speaking of dark spaces and thousands of apartments around, is there ever been any discussion whatsoever to perhaps have a small 1 or 2 screen theater put back in here somewhere?
I think that time has proven, and COVID has proven, and technology has proven that it's not necessarily the highest and best use. I think it will be difficult to find an operator that has enough scale to just operate a 1 or 2 screen movie theater, and obviously it takes into account ceiling heights and clear heights and other things like that. So I know to some extent, it is unfortunate the theater just didn't work and couldn't make it. But I think, again, going back to the environment we're creating here and the connectivity of everything and the cohesive environment is better served by that space being office. And I think the draw of the town square and the parks we're showing are all huge. They fill big voids in the community. I think that we consistently see, especially in urban environments, we see green spaces going away, and I think this shows we're leaning into the green space, increasing the green space, and leaning into the community at a cost of nothing to the community to participate in. So, hopefully it's a better interaction than a movie theater.
I will add that there is the opportunity with the green to be able to do outdoor summer movies seasonally to add to the program.
Exactly. I was just gonna add
That's
to
a great
that.
point.
Yeah, we do a lot of programming for outdoor cinemas and events like that, so it won't go away.
Great. Bob, you have your hand raised? Please
Yeah,
unmute yourself.
a quick question here. Who is going to be managing the outdoor space? Is it going to be a third party that's going to have some operational administrative role there, or is it going to be you specifically, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, it's a coordination of multiple parties. It's property management, maintaining, cleaning, or engaging third parties to maintain and clean. It's the Canna team managing events. It's and getting the word out there on what we're doing. And so I think it's many parties, but it's myself as ownership and the third parties we engage to work with us.
Any other questions? Last chance. I'm going to give it about 20 more seconds to raise your hand or put your question in.
Yeah,
Bob Russ has
Sorry,
a question.
Bob.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on here. It's hard to make these public squares work in a variety of ways. And we look around the city, Market Square, I think, has gotten much better with all the food options and the kind of outdoor cafes that bring Market Square, and it's kind of a wide open plaza. Here, as you start to plop these kiosks in, you've changed the focus to be a more inward space, a more cloistered space. Once you get inside it, it's probably going to be very exciting, but to everybody else around the storefronts that bring the square, which have never been really active. I think you have Mongolian Grill had a little outdoor dining, but mostly everything else is retail, and the Cheesecake Factory had an outdoor dining there that's right behind the stage now. So I guess my observations are, one, all tricky things to deal with, a four-sided square and no real back door. Where you've placed the stage is sort of opposite of where it is now, and kind of clearly makes Cheesecake Factory kind of back of house. You're going to sit in the outdoor dining there, and you're going to see the backs of the performers and the backs of the amplifiers and the back of the drummers, thing. And that can be somewhat exciting sometimes, but I don't know if that, it now pushes Cheesecake Factory, behind the scenes. And I don't know if it's good or bad. And the other thing is sort of the stage. These stages kind of are great when they're active, but they kind of sit there empty and in an empty stage and unused other times. And in Market Square, again, the stage is set up kind of on a case-by-case basis, a kind of per-show basis. Other times it's gone, and you're not kind of confronted with this empty platform. You're starting to make the right moves there, and it's becoming more of a public. It can be more sculptural, perhaps, and another play structure or another platform a little bit more neutralized or integrated and organic with the space. But you got to be careful that that stage doesn't sit there empty and you've come at a time when there is no show and you kind of feel it's just kind of dead space or dead structure. So I don't know. There's parts of this that feel like it's getting cluttered up with all these little structures. But yet as a whole, if they're all active and they're open and people are eating and the food's there, I think it's going to be really fun. So it's an interesting experiment. I think you got your hands full, but good luck. You know, I think we've got to do something down there.
Thanks, Bob. Any other panelists with questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A, and I don't see any hands raised. I'm going to give it maybe another 10 seconds. And if you don't mind, stop screen sharing, Teresa. I'm gonna screen share now on the next steps. Barbara, I'm gonna hand it to you.
Yeah, so the community has 30 days to provide additional comments, and those can be sent to the council at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org, and we can share those with the presenters. So this project at some point will be going to the Planning Commission, and you know, anyone in the community can provide testimony to support or to, you know, provide their concerns. And you can send an email to the Planning Commission, you can send a letter to their address. You can also attend, you know, one of the virtual meetings. If there are additional comments or concerns, it's, you know, it's better, I think, to contact us, because then we can work with the, you know, with the Southside Works team, so that when they get in front of the Planning Commission, we can say that everything's been ironed out if there are any concerns.
To also note the chat section too. Actually, myself and one of the moderators added the art commission feedback for at least the town center component of it too. It's a similar arrangement as far as number of days beforehand, and again, we don't know the meeting dates for either of these public hearings yet, but that's just something for, you know, to watch through the community council organization.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Anthony. It's Allison. I just wanted to touch on that as well. Okay.
Oh, that was you? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah, so now we're gonna
send it off. Yeah, thanks first to the Southside Works team for your presentation, and I think your thoroughness in what it is that you're doing, and your willingness to answer questions. So we thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
We'll be seeing you again soon, I'm sure.
You will.
Sounds good.
Have a great evening.
Good night. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Barbara for our next group.
Yep, we're going to be, you know, hearing from Kento and Matt and Daniel regarding a proposed development on 90 South 12th Street. And for those of you that are familiar, it's on the corner of 12th and Sarah, across from Armstrong Park. So it's all yours, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Barbara. Hopefully everybody can see my screen now. This is just the Google Street View.
We can see your screen, but can you get a little closer to your computer, because you sound very far away?
Let's see. Is that any better? I don't know which microphone it's using. I have two going, so I'll try to talk a little louder. Before I get too far into it, my name is Kento Omori, Fukui Architects. I'm working with Matt Renzi, who's also on the call. We're looking at this a much smaller scale, for better or worse, than our presenters just before us. But we feel, it's very important and impactful just the same. The site, of course, is was already introduced. I can jump over to the map here. It's right this corner right here, right next to Armstrong Field, as was stated. And I'll go back to the street view. The primary purpose, and I'll jump over to my presentation now. This is the survey. It's a very small lot, roughly 20 feet wide by 120 feet long. There's a couple of existing buildings out there now. We were originally planning on leaving the buildings after a couple of discussions with the community council. We've decided to go ahead and raise those buildings and include the entire block in our development. As a summary, the primary purpose of this is that we do need to go to the zoning board for several variances, 4 in total, 3 of which are dimensional. The last one, the big one, being a use variance. Essentially, this is categorized as a multi-unit development, even though they're essentially townhouses, because of the size of the lot. They're considered, for zoning purposes, a multifamily building. Now, a little bit of history on the project. Back in 2017, there was also a zoning board hearing on the lot at the time. Single-family dwelling was proposed. I think, let's see, Andrei Dukmanovich, which I believe might be on. I saw an Andy in the participants. I assume he's still there and keenly interested in the project. Did oppose. The variance was granted, essentially on the basis that the lot is extremely narrow. There was some thoughts of kind of just taking over the project. This is the file designs that were forwarded to us from the sellers. Essentially a single family home with lots of indoor parking at the back. But really what we wanted to do here is maybe try something else, of course, with the community's blessing, of course. I've spent a lot of time of my volunteer hours with Lawrenceville. I'm a member of the board of the Lawrenceville Corporation over there. And I see a lot of these, big overpriced townhouses, nothing that, really the typical average mortal can afford. Really, I think going for probably the tech industry, I'm not really sure, but there's certainly, us that have lived there longer, lamenting the loss of, more affordable, yet well-designed units. So, the concept that we wanted to put forward was much smaller units than the 24 to 3,200 square foot luxury townhouses that are popping up elsewhere in the city. These are very small units. Essentially what we're proposing to do is use Sarah Street as the frontage and do a series of 5 24-foot wide townhouses. The trick here is that the townhouses are only 17.5 feet deep. This does leave a little bit of an access along the back. We're not going right up to the property line like the previous development was proposing, but leaving a little bit of an access back there, essentially creating a series of, we're calling it like maybe a 1.5 bedroom townhouses. We have essentially a full-size bedroom, then sort of a bonus room that could work as a bedroom, but more likely these days, an at-home office or something like that for people to be able to work from home. Each one of these townhouses does include a single parking space, so we do have a 1-for-1. One of the questions or comments that was brought up in previous meetings with the community council was potentially having this access a little bit too close to the intersection. We did not engage DOMI, but we did a fair amount of research. It's right on the borderline. 20 feet is the magic number from the side, from the crosswalk. The crosswalk is out a little bit. I think you could see it in the street view here. So it's a little bit out. You know, if we have to, and it makes everybody feel more comfortable in terms of not having a driveway that close to the intersection, we are amenable to possibly eliminating that parking space. I do know from other discussions with community groups that they certainly don't want these new developments to increase the pressure on street parking. So we're sensitive to that as well. But that's something that we're willing to look at, and especially with the most recent amendment to the zoning code, which eliminates the minimum in single-family attached districts. This could be done without too much anxiety in terms of the ZBA and approval. So just putting that out there as a potential. So this is just some quick drawings of the plans. Again, first floor level with a powder room, actually a full-size bathroom with a small shower, indoor parking and a small bonus room. The second floor is really your living space. It's going to be wide open, living, dining, kitchen, all in one. And then, the third floor would have, a pretty decent sized bedroom, walk-in closet, washer dryer with an access to a small roof deck up top. This is our current proposal for the elevations, fairly contemporary. It is still a little bit of a work in progress, but we're committing to bringing good design, good detailing. This isn't just going to be slapping some materials up on the facade and calling it a day. Material changes would be considered carefully. But we're still fairly early in this process because the zoning ask is fairly significant. We didn't want to push this too far and spin our wheels too much. If we do get a fair amount of objection to these 5 units on the lot, we'll likely back off and go back to the single unit. But we really thought that this concept had some merit in terms of traditional, what we call small A affordable, not subsidized. They are market rate, but at a much more affordable price point, potentially for young professionals, or we're talking to several people, even in our firm, of people looking to move back to Pittsburgh, with the situation that's out there, wanting to be closer to their family after having moved to places like Chicago and Denver and New York, and they want to move back closer to their roots. So these kind of places would be targeting those folks, and I think it fills a need in the marketplace, that we're perceiving. So a couple of quick, these aren't colored or anything, but the 2 other elevations on the alley side, as well as the 12th Street side. So I'll go back real quick, again to the main talking points, really in terms of variances, dimensional variances. I understand it's a request, but we do have a precedent to request those, and they've been granted in the past. Really, the idea is, how many, the density that we're proposing, is it going to be okay? Usually the burden of proof for us is going to be, what's the impact on the neighborhood, and how does it fit into the context? And I would, like to offer, in terms of that really the character of this area, when looking at the development from Sarah Street, it's going to have this same rhythm, of 2 to 3 story buildings, 20 feet plus or minus wide, the same kind of character down here as well. This is albeit newer, more contemporary design with better materials, but it's that same kind of rhythm. So I don't think it'll look out of place at all. And there are other legal multifamily buildings in this area. Here's one right here. Here's one right here. And in terms of density, there is a park here, which means that there's all this open space without residents. So I think in the end it will balance out. So that's what we'd like to propose. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Okay, thank you.
So one question for clarification for the variances that you requested.
Yes.
There was one that's missing, but I don't know if it's or it shows up further up there. Where is it now? Let me see here. The minimum 400 square feet lot size per unit. Is that
We're
in
over
there?
that. We're 495. Required is
Okay.
400. So.
Okay, maybe that was an earlier estimate. Okay, so I'll scratch that from the report. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'm gonna kick it off and ask it if any of the panelists have any questions.
You know what, I had one. What do you think the cost of these, what would be the price that you would be selling these at?
Now, you want me to go ahead and take this? I mean, I'm kind of guessing. We've talked a little bit about it. We're still working on the pro forma and construction costs. But when we started the concept, we were looking at maybe the high twos, so 280, give or take. I think that's kind of where we would want to be.
Yeah, Kento. Since we last spoke and got feedback from the group before, now that it's a master bedroom with a spare office, this will probably range from 240 to 280,000. That helps answer your question.
Mid twos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more affordable than the 500 to 750 that we're seeing on the 2,800 square foot.
Kenzo, I'm sorry, it is really hard to hear you.
Let me see if I can try and switch the microphone. How do I do this here? Controls, meeting.
We also have a question in the, I'm sorry, we have an attendee with their hand raised. Quaylet, I'm going to ask that you unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. Did I see that right, that the only bathroom is on the lower floor? I mean, I didn't see it on the master.
There's this bathroom here. Is that any better on the audio, by the way? I did switch
Yes.
my...
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent.
All right, perfect.
Much better, thank you.
So, and then there's another...
Not anymore. You cut out.
Yeah, we lost you on the microphone. We still can't hear you.
Is that any better? Hello?
Yep.
Yes, that's better now.
All right.
I see.
Fingers
So,
crossed.
yeah,
So
I was looking
there's
at
none on the second floor. So on the second
No.
floor, you would either have to go up or down.
No, I was looking at the wrong diagram when you showed the upper floor with the master bedroom. I was looking at the wrong section.
Ah.
Yeah, instead of looking to the left, I see it there. Okay, never mind, cancel my question.
Thank you.
No,
I have
so
a question. Go ahead, Kathleen.
now, since the last time we spoke to you, did you make changes to the ground floor where you can go from the garage into the home without going outside?
Yes.
Okay.
Kento, did they become wider because you've now removed the structure that's on there now?
That's right. Yeah. So we took the structure down. The structure basically came out to here. If you can see my mouse, you can sort of see, if I zoom in here, the remnants of the structure underneath our drawing. So we were able to take that space and spread it out amongst the rest of the units.
Nice. Any other questions, Mike? I thought you.
Yeah, could you go up to that third floor plan view? Okay, that when you were, I guess, giving prices, you said that now these have a master bedroom and an office. Is that 5 by 8 foot square there considered the office?
No, that's a walk-in. The office is down on the first floor.
Okay.
To the back of the
and how
building.
big is that? That's 9 by
7.5.
9 by 7.5. Okay. I guess that's
Cozy.
enough to put a
It's
desk
cozy.
and chair in.
Yeah. No, we understand that this is, it's pretty tight. I spent a fair amount of time of my childhood in Tokyo, and this would be cozy. This would be like Tokyo style single family.
Well, I'm sitting in my living room in Southside, and it's 16 by 14, and that's one room. So this looks really small.
So, I mean, this is why we kind of doubt that it'll get used as a bedroom. More likely, a home office, but it'll be configurable for either way.
And in that kitchen, you have a refrigerator in the corner, a sink, and then a
Where did I? Here it is.
and that's the stove.
Right here. Yep.
Okay.
So they can,
Is
if
that
they would. Go ahead.
an island or a peninsula or anything in the kitchen, or no?
It could be. I mean, we're leaving it flexible. I've used in my youth when I was living in smaller places, I had like a mobile cart that I put in my kitchen that allowed me to kind of move it around, put it in front of the fridge when I was assembling all my ingredients. Putting it behind the cooktop. When I was cooking, chopping. That might be one solution. We're happy to build it out and do more of a galley style. If we get any pre-purchases that, want to customize and expand the kitchen at all. But, for the time being, for what's being proposed, we wanted to just show a wide open room that can be, configured in a variety of different ways.
Is that a rooftop deck, or is there no access to the roof?
It's a rooftop deck, yes. There's a little pop-up that pops up at the back and allows you to come out.
Are the air conditioning units up on the roof?
They would be, yeah. Or we end up, with, I mean, they would be. A building like this is pretty small. We're going to build it very efficiently. So we're talking about some pretty small units, most likely, what's called, a multi-split or a VRF. So you'd have one condenser and you'd have just little head units in a couple of rooms. But yeah.
Could you go back?
I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Could you go back to that, the other plan view, I guess the second floor?
Second floor.
Yeah. What is that just north of the table and chairs? Is that just a little?
It's a little, what do they call it? Juliet Balcony? This thing right here, just so a door that kind of pops out a little bit. Not enough to actually go out, but it might be enough for, like a potted little tomato plant, something like that. Mint, little herb garden.
Okay. All right.
Now, what's the in between this building and the building behind it?
So let me go back to the site plan. So right now this is a yard. This building right here is right up on the property line. So along this last townhome, there would be 3 feet from the back of this to the existing structure. Outside of that, of course, I don't know what the lot width is here, but we would have 3 feet from the back of our buildings to the lot line.
And is that only because it's required, or you don't want to use all the space?
It's complicated. Well, I shouldn't say it's complicated. Holding the building back allows us to put some windows in there. And because the units really are, they're townhouses, so they only have front and backs, we really wanted to make sure we could get some light and ventilation off the back. So that's the reason, we're holding that back.
Now, I did notice walking by there today, the structure that is there now at 88 South 12th, that's behind where the garage is now. That house has a window. Yep, there.
I have to get back
yeah.
over there. Is
Yeah.
it like right in here? Let me see if I won't be able to see it from this angle.
What does it do to that window, for the person who lives there?
It depends.
He has a nice little deck back there and, a living space. So there, the garage, I can't recall if the garage is high enough that it obstructs any kind of light, or there's no view, but necessarily a view. But what does that do when you start building up?
So I need to go take a look at it to know for sure. Presumably the same rules applied, when that was constructed. So, windows wouldn't really be permitted on the lot line, as long as the window is set back from the lot line, or if it's perpendicular to the lot line, like this sliding glass door is, there really wouldn't be any effect other than, that there would be a structure here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to go look. I mean, by way of example, assuming that, this structure is entirely separate from this lot, windows right on what is presumed to be the lot line, these are not really allowed.
Yeah.
And if that were the case, and, the owner of this lot wanted to build here, unfortunately, these windows would get blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they were to build off of that lot line, technically, I'm not really sure exactly what would happen, but, you're not allowed to have openings directly on the lot line for, fire spread reasons.
Okay.
Fire will jump from window to window, which is why, we're holding our buildings back.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we have a question in the Q&A, and actually Terrence had asked how he engages in dialogue with the applicant. So Terrence, if you want to hit the raise my hand button, that can raise your hand, and then I will ask you to unmute yourself. But you also put a question in the Q&A, or really a comment. And that comment is this: these look great. Would love to see more of these all over the odd lots of South Side. Having also lived in Asia, this is quite doable for a couple or a couple with baby. Thank you for your comment. And Andy has raised their hand. I'm going to ask that you unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi, great. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, you sound great.
Oh, fantastic, thanks. Yes, I'm Andy, the neighbor at 88. I acknowledge opposing the prior development request. Prime interest to me at the time was the 0 setback and a second-story deck for them. That was going to be adjacent to my deck and overlooking my property. I have a 6-foot tall fence only. And so I've lived here for 6 years, developed that into my own home in 2014. I've been living in Southside in 20 years. I'm probably the only owner-occupied along Cunliffe Way, and I'm one of the few, there are a few owner-occupieds along 12th Street. And my thoughts on this, I'm coming up to speed, so this is kind of new to me. I met Matt once, about 6 months ago. But from what I've gleaned in the past couple of days of catching up here, one commenter thought, that's probably everyone's thought of, the Sarah Street intersection, of course, heading into the traffic light gets very backed up. could be a little bit of a daunting prospect to back into or exit egress out of garages when that intersection blocks up. But sure, that's surmountable. But conversations with other long-term tenants and me living there for 6 years, that area, Cunliffe especially, and 12th is already pretty much 100% renters, full of short-term residents with little or no skin in the game, maybe little consideration for their neighbors, long-term neighbors, unfortunately. Here, the idea of 5 decks overlooking my property, and especially near the garage, building up atop the garage and blocking my window, a little bit of a concern for me. I'm just trying to learn more about it and options. When we developed the building at 84, 86, where the windows face the grassy yard, so both properties were on the same deed, and the inspector and process at the time permitted windows to be where there were originally windows before construction. So that's why those got carried over, just to mention. But just thinking general livability and trying not to key it toward me myself, because some of these thoughts do impact other neighbors, especially long-term neighbors. Just the idea of adding 5 families or 5 groups, let's say, which may turn into rentals eventually, along one piece of property, it just feels a little bit daunting. I'm just trying to learn more about it. But specifically, yeah, I do concern about having decks in visibility overlooking my 5 decks overlooking my property and blocking that window to where, and I'm unsure whether there is the possibility of foot traffic near my window on the 2nd floor proposed, or foot traffic along my side of the fence with the 3-foot setback. So those are just, I guess, some livability concerns. Construction wise, since it's such a small area, the initial thoughts that come to mind is the construction traffic, illegal parking in the alley. It's already a one-way alley with tight ingress, egress. There's a large tree overhanging my yard, my house, and the deck. So some coordination or risk, would occur there during the construction. So I just, as a resident, see short-term risks and short-term, interruption and potential for issues, but longer term, really just the idea, again, of a highly concentrated group of 5 families on a small piece of land, especially bordering mine. And this is conjecture, but I would think could likely very well turn into rentals one day. And just my experience of 20 years living in the South Side, it's the short-term residents, the renters, that have the least consideration and skin in the game towards neighbors. So just a sensitive spot that I'm sure many are aware of besides myself. But those really are my major thoughts. Appreciate being able to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have to talk it over with Matt, but I think there's probably some opportunity to maybe slide this deck away from both edges. So you're not just like peering over the edge down to the bottom. If that maybe help alleviate at least some of your concerns about people like just kind of peering into your yard. In terms of the 2nd floor, we do want some light and ventilation on this back wall, but it is just currently one window being proposed. The majority, of course, of the light and air is coming in from the Sarah Street side, because that's the side that's open. I don't know if that helps your concerns at all, but those are things that we did think about while we were looking at this, because it is cozy, city living for sure.
Sure. And again, being selfish, a lot of my coziness comes from a view out the window of the slopes, and hearing that might get blocked. Of course, I bought the property with certain assumptions in mind that expansion of that building is unlikely. But yeah, I definitely would like to just keep in contact, and because of the tree, because of the proximity, obviously we're going to cross paths. We should
and absolutely
stay in touch.
If this were to come to fruition, there would be very close coordination with you in terms of construction and all that, because we understand that can get a little testy. So we've managed construction projects like this before. It's a combination of doing things like modular build, so they're not stick framing on site. You know, that's probably a consideration. You know, other things like we've gone so far as to shuttle people, you know, workers. So essentially, you know, there would only be maybe the site superintendent and one more vehicle that's, you know, quote unquote, you know, permitted to be, you know, parked close to the site. You know, we would have them purchase a permit for one of the street parking spots. And then we would, you know, shuttle people from, you know, other parking, paid parking surface lots or something like that in the area. But that's, you know, that's also required as part of our permitting process for a site like this. So, you know, obviously there's.
Thanks, Kent. Maybe a question for Matt. If these are envisioned to turn into condos, is there any thought towards putting a non-rental type of stipulation or such? I can't assume, but I can't help assume after 20 years in the South Side, and I'm a landlord myself, the potential for something unique, novel like this to turn into rentals or Airbnb is very high. And again, just going with history as to how typical renter, especially a close group of renters, can behave. I know that's going to be a concern of mine and definitely the long-term neighbors that I know on 12th Street.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to answer the question to the best of my ability today. So for sure, I can't say put an exact non-renters on there, because if I can't sell any of them, I'd be put in a horrible place. But the primary goal is to sell these to young couples, to a young professional that can't afford to, you know, purchase those other condos, want a modern, smaller living arrangement that's walkable to the parks and restaurants and stuff like that. So the goal is to sell them to homeowners. And then, what was your other question on that, Andy?
I think that was the main one, just looking at it, the high potential for this to sooner than later turn into rentals or Airbnb type units.
Yes, so I'm very familiar with Airbnb as well, and am a landlord myself in long-term rentals too. Done some flips, etc. The primary goal is to, you know, offer a new product to the market, you know, so these young professionals and young couples can share the same city living that, you know, why we're all here for.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, I really have nothing else more to add other than to underscore, you know, my three main concerns of introducing, you know, more 5 different unique families on a small plot in an already pretty highly populated area populated with renters. Secondly, the blocking of my window, be it legal or not, or whether with variances or not, but then also exposing 5 individual groups, decks over my property, whether there could be a large wall or something to maintain some privacy and separation.
Yeah, I think Kento hit that immediately. We can clearly push that deck back, and of course we can, you know, make it a, you know, 6 foot or whatever wall to make sure you keep your privacy and to still keep the amenity.
I mean, we would want to be able to, you know, see the view. So, you know, hopefully.
So would I. So would I like to maintain my view.
Tall, but.
Yeah, we'd all like a nice view. How about that?
Might I make one suggestion for what Andy said, not with the view or anything, but he had one concern about that 3 foot in between his property and your properties, about people, you know, getting back there, putting like a nice gate on either side and locking it so that only your tenants can get back there, or your homeowners, so that, you know, a random person can't get back there and do illicit stuff.
Yeah, we would definitely secure it. I'm not sure if that ends up being, you know, condo common, or if, you know, there's a 3 foot backyard. But the intent would not to have it, you know, open between Cunliffe and 12th Street.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if I understand right, the garage would be demolished, and there wouldn't be. I understand now that there wouldn't be the garage ceiling surface next to my building.
Right. Yeah. So you would, we would actually pull that building off, and you would get, airflow through here.
Yeah.
But no, thanks again for the opportunity, Barbara and everybody. And I do have concerns, but no new ones to raise at the moment.
I had a question. Are we still with questions?
Yes, Mike, we are.
Okay. That site plan right there, you're really not going to put trees there, are you? On that sidewalk?
Well, the city requires 2 street trees. They don't have to go there.
There's not enough room to walk there now. 2 people bypassing each other, and now you're going to put a tree in a garden bed, and it just doesn't. People are coming one way. You have to actually walk out into the street to go around them, and I don't know. That just don't make sense there. And then a tree right in front of 2 doors. I've seen many houses, if you've been through Southside lately, where they're chopping the heck out of trees. This ain't even a good way to start, I think.
We'll have to take a look at that. Clearly, we could probably put something on 12th, but they require street trees, so we have to do something somewhere.
You have to put a tree in, is that right?
Wow.
We need 2 trees with each with the 30.
What's that?
We need 2 trees.
Yeah.
With the 30.
Yeah, the standard city tree pit is 3 by 10. So, well, that'll be a challenge that we'll have to work through, because we do want to maintain, access through there. I mean, I'm trying to go back to the original survey to see if there's a dimension on the sidewalk, but I do not see one. So,
Are you positive that it's 3 by 10? I thought it was 3 by 8.
3 by 10, or if the recommended, it has to be 30 square feet.
Yeah, that's correct.
okay.
And I believe that the number of trees is based on either the length of the lot.
Well, there's a lot of construction housing going up in the south side, and I don't recall everybody putting up a tree in front of their house.
Kento, I'd happily hop in. So, Mike, I agree with you. Walking on a sidewalk, that definitely makes it difficult. And future problems, too. They overgrow. They bring up the sidewalk. We have those there to stay up to code. And I know Kento will do his best.
I wonder if we could talk to Lisa or somebody and, plant some street trees in the immediate vicinity, like maybe over here as an offset. Because, I do see the point, it can create a problem for accessibility to pinch that sidewalk down that narrow. So, we have this one tree here.
Would I be correct, Kento, that because you're taking away 2 trees, you have to put 2 trees back? Is that
there's two different requirements. One is, yes, Barbara, there's you're supposed to either replace or if you can't, there's a tree fund that can be contributed to, but I believe the street trees is a separate related but separate issue. But perhaps there's some leeway as there is with the tree fund to figure out a different solution.
So yeah, I think that's called alternative compliance.
Right.
When you don't have space on the private side to plant those trees, that you can put money into a fund that's supposed to be spent within the neighborhood. But I don't know if that applies to street trees.
Yeah, I don't think I've looked at it before, so I just don't know the answer off the top of my head.
And Kento, we're working on Esser Plaza, and there are some trees I think that are being removed. And again, we need to replace them so that if they're not going to be in Esser Plaza, they need to be elsewhere nearby. So, and I don't know, I don't know all the details, and Kitty and Jeff had to leave the meeting, but as this moves forward, we need to stay in contact, because I think some of the places that you might be considering may already, the
Be
plan
spoken
might
for.
already be, they already might be used. So if we can coordinate as
Yes.
this moves forward, just so that you're aware that, yeah, some of these spots might be taken already.
And can you make sure you you talk with Tree Pittsburgh, so you're putting in the right trees, so they don't
Absolutely.
get overgrown, and
Yeah.
they're the
Actually,
right.
I sit on the board of the Lawrenceville Corp with Dave, who's the executive director there. So
Oh, great.
have a
Well,
good
then
working
you know which
relationship.
trees.
Yep.
Oh, excellent. So we do have a question, or we have a hand raised. Quaylin, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Quaylin?
There. Are you there? Can
Yes.
you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
sorry. I was having trouble unmuting. You talked about that 3-foot space, and I was looking at the garages and how tight they are. So I'm going to bring up, where are people going to put their trash during the week until it is pickup day?
So even with a family of 4, with twins, I managed to keep all my trash in the various bins in the house. And on trash day, which is Tuesday morning, I frantically run around the house and fill up a big black bag and then put it on the curb. So
we don't see, we don't see much of that on the south side. I mean, I'm sitting here even on Cary Way. There's a couple of people here who just put their trash out all the time. Or there's an apartment building on the corner of 24th and Cary who have their apartment trash bins right on the sidewalk. So I'm bringing that up as an issue because you have that 3 feet that's there.
Yeah.
And that may be a place where each unit can put trash until trash day. And at least it won't be on the street.
Yeah, we could certainly, potentially look at providing some access out the back, either of the garage or someplace, so that that can be accessed. And I guess speaking of that, that probably isn't a bad idea in terms of making sure that that's accessible without having to go out and around. So we could certainly look at that. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
There's a comment in the chat. I wasn't sure if you already mentioned that. I don't know if anyone on the call, just so they can hear what was said by Tom.
Yeah, so Tom said, I really like the design for this space. No street parking is lost due to the garage curb cuts, and it helps complete the urban block. I hope your pricing holds true.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Tom put that in the chat. We lost one of our panelists, Bob, who had their hand raised. So I apologize that Bob didn't get to ask his question. Please put your question in the Q&A or raise your hand. Any panelists have questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to give it about 20 more seconds. And I'm
Maybe
going to
we'll get Bob back.
Yeah. And so, Kento, will you stop your screen share?
Yep.
Thank you. And I'm going to.
I think Bob's still on.
Yeah, Bob Ross is on, but this was Bob with, I think his last name started with a C. Chapman, maybe?
Bob Charlin?
Oh, it was Bob Charlin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. We lost him. He had his hand raised and then, must have had to go.
Yeah, and I'll touch base with him tomorrow.
Okay.
So, again, our next steps, if there are there are additional comments, you can contact the Community Council at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. You know, there's, this will be presented to the zoning board. So comments can also be made to the zoning board, either through email or a letter or being in attendance. I think there were some comments here where, you know, Andy, you know, we can connect you with Kento and Matt so that there can be some ongoing, you know, discussions. And, you know, we certainly, as a community council, will, you know, we'll take all of this in and, you know, provide some additional comments if necessary, you know, within our 30 days, so that you're well aware of how we're moving on this project. And I know that there were a couple of, as Andy had mentioned, there were a couple of residents from South 12th Street who could not be in attendance because of prior commitments. And, you know, I think they'll be looking at the recording and then sharing questions and sharing, you know, asking questions and sharing comments. So we'll make sure that, you know, that you get that information.
Great. Thank you very much for everybody's time.
Yeah.
It's getting late. I didn't realize that we were going to be one of 3 today until I looked up the agenda. So it's a happening place, Southside.
Yeah, I apologize for not
No, that's all right.
sharing that with you later. And, you know, we're putting things up on our website, you know, for those of you that, you know, are members of the community. You know, the recordings do go onto our YouTube page. We have information in our newsletters, and, you know, we will be having a dam on November 19th if there are any development projects that are ready, and December 17th. So, you know, with that, I think, you know, we can say good night. It's time for the debate.
Good night.
Thanks, Barb. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.